Well, hello everybody. Welcome once again to the Van Buren Variety Show. I am, of course, Bob Van Buren, your host. So glad you're here. Those of you that are regulars that tune in week after week, these live shows, I could not have done this without y'all. I appreciate your loyalty and your viewership. That really, really helps me a lot. Makes me feel really good that people are interested. People that are new that are tuning to this channel, whether you're live or you're watching this later, you're like, what's this channel all about? Van Buren Variety. Well, just what this title says, variety. It could be about a person's profession. It might someone have an interesting hobby, an interest that interests them. It could be them playing an instrument, about their life story. And so every week I have an individual guest on this show that I interview about an interesting topic. So hence the word variety. And so if you are new and you like what you see tonight or like what you've seen in previous episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate that. And if you like the topic, if you like the video, the guest, the topic, make sure you hit that like button. I'm sure my guests would really, really appreciate knowing that you've watched and you liked what you saw. And maybe leave a comment too. Would love to hear from you on the comments section too. So welcome once again to the show, and I hope you like tonight's episode. Now tonight, this is the 88th episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. Glad to do it. But I have to confess, folks, this episode tonight almost didn't happen. Everything in the world has happened. Me personally, last Friday, I got bronchitis. And it was the worst case of bronchitis I've had in my entire life. On Saturday, I actually lost my voice. Sunday, I still had no voice. And I was thinking I got to cancel the show. Luckily I talked to somebody and they agreed to completely host the show for me by himself. I appreciate him stepping up. But he is still going to be here tonight. Even though you can see I've got my voice back, it's still a little strained. So he is still going to co-host with me tonight and get me through this in case I lose my voice again. I have pretty much lived on this for the past few days, and I wish I had taken stock in the Kleenex company because I think I've went through 4, 5, 6 boxes of this, and not to mention the cough drops. So yeah, bronchitis is not fun. I'm sure you can all relate to that. So the guest I had tonight, not sure what happened. So not only did I almost not appear tonight, the guest I had tonight, not sure what happened. I'm not faulting. Anything could have happened. You never know what's in a person's life. So I'm not going to fault anybody. So I have no guest tonight. But as I said before, I still have a co-host tonight who now will be filling 2 sets of shoes. Co-host and the guest. So, and ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot of you will know who this is because a lot of my subscribers on Van Buren Variety also subscribe to this guy's channel as well. So without further ado, let's see if you recognize this person.
3 shoes. 3 shoes, Bob.
3 shoes, okay.
Co-host, guest, and sexy eye candy.
Oh, yeah, that's what Tex calls you all the time. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't ever forget that.
So I'm sure everybody will appreciate not having to look at my ugly mug the entire time. So
88
yes,
episodes? You've been around for 8. People put up with you for 88 episodes?
And YouTube has not banned me or fact-checked me yet. How did I do that?
Oh, dude, fact-checking is the greatest thing ever. That is my favorite thing in the world.
Have you been fact-checked?
Yes. Yes, I have. Oh, I've had videos removed.
Oh, not just fact-checked, they're gone.
Yeah, I've had videos removed because I actually talked about something that actually happened. See, that's the thing. As long as you're making crap up, they don't care. You talk about things that actually happened, suddenly you just, they'll take your videos down. Yeah, I've had it happen several times.
Did they just take it down on their own, or was it because somebody complained, or do you know?
No, we violated a
guidelines, community guidelines.
Right, and the thing that we violated was actually, again, it was saying something that actually happened on both accounts. So
you didn't make this up. You were just putting news out there, and if I could say that Gestapo stopped you or Pravda stopped you.
Yep, exactly. Oh, calm down, little dog. Here's the worst part. My dog will sit there and bark when she hears people moving around downstairs. This afternoon, she was doing it when my wife was coming up the stairs. She didn't realize it was her. Kelly, calm down. She was under the covers. She just stuck her. She didn't even stick her whole head out. It was like just her muzzle, and she was yapping, and she never even bothered. Like she'll just stay on the bed, barking like it's the end of the world. But like she just stuck her snoot out and was barking. My wife just looked at her like, "What the heck are you doing, dog? Seriously?"
Wow. It sounds so vicious, though. That scares me.
Yes.
I'm sure it's so terrible, right? You know?
Oh, yeah. Vicious 22-pound Chihuahua Rat Terrier mix.
Wow.
Yep.
Beware. Somebody knocks on your door, tries to break in.
Oh, this dog's hiding behind the cat. Like, I'd probably throw the cat at whoever it was so I can get the gun. But
Sugars would be more vicious, huh?
Oh, absolutely. You know, assuming, like I said, I have to throw her because she wouldn't care. In fact, she was just here. Oh, she's left. Yeah, she was just here.
I closed my office door because normally Oreo, my cat, tries to come in and makes a, quote, cameo appearance on the back of my chair. But I think she was asleep, so I don't think she minded that I locked her out. So,
you know what you could do? What you could do is actually get like one of those cat tree things and put like right behind you, so Oreo can just hang out there with you.
Yeah, I should. But she don't want that. She wants to climb back here and love and put her face right here and do that while I'm trying to talk seriously to someone. And then even knocked my hat off, almost knocked it off in one time. So
well, that's the thing is, you have the cat tree. She can just sit there and hang out with you.
That's true.
Yeah. And be your sexy co-host.
Nah, she can be the co-host, yeah, for sure.
There you go.
Well, let's say, most of my subscribers, if not all my subscribers on Van Buren Variety, are also subscribers on Texas Front Porch, and I think that's vice versa. But we may have a few people here that are subscribing to Van Buren Variety, my channel, that are not on Texas Front Porch. And I know definitely you've got people on Texas Front Porch who are not subscribers here to Van Buren Variety. So let's fill in all the gaps here if we can. So Jason, we've got plenty of time. So tell us about your channel, what it's called, and what shows you have on, and what the topics are for my Van Buren Variety audience.
So for those of you who are not subscribed to Texas Front Porch, first of all, why not? It's the best show and the best channel on the internet.
As well as Van Buren Variety.
Sure, why not? Well, you're part of the family, though.
Okay.
You're part of the family. But yeah, Texas Front Porch, TEX ' Front Porch. On Mondays, we got Texas Front Porch. On Tuesdays, we got you. We've got Beyond BMR. We've got on Wednesdays, Jason McLean Questions Everything. On Thursday, we've got Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob and then following that evening we have Siru Papers. You may notice the thing down there. On Fridays we have Blondes, Booze, and the Woo. Essentially, it's a channel that's dedicated to cryptozoology, the paranormal, conspiracy theories, all kinds of fun stuff, and we have a lot of fun doing it. You are on the channel. Tex, for whom the channel is named, homeless Santa Claus. He does a great job. Rob, he's the best interviewer you'll ever have.
Bigfoot Michigan Rob.
Bigfoot Michigan Rob, yes. My co-host on Wednesdays, and he has his own show. He has two of his own shows. Again, it's a great channel. If you want to hear about things that are a little, far afield a little bit, that's what you want to go to. You want to hear, and we're not just going to go around and make stuff up. A lot of these channels, they're just going to tell you stories and accounts of people who they're not even real. We're going to give you fact. We're going to, when we talk to you, we're going to we treat you like adults. We want a bigger, better conversation, a more robust conversation. We're going to ask questions a lot of people are afraid to ask. So if you haven't subscribed, go over after the show's over, of course. Follow, subscribe, and then inflict us upon the world.
Please. And when we say Texas Front Porch, a lot of people might be thinking, are you saying Texas, Texas? No, we're saying TEX'. Texas Front Porch.
It is the front porch of Tex.
Yes. So make sure. Some people ask Texas Front Porch. No, Texas apostrophe. I don't know how we can make that distinction.
The possessive. Yeah, it's the possessive of Tex. All you can do is explain it, and that's, it is what it is. But you get to see my beautiful visage. You get to see Tex and his magnificent beard most nights. Anyway.
Well, kind of, now that you've got your name up there, tell us a little bit more about Siru Papers, kind of what that's about. Yep. Actually, to describe what Siru is.
So, Siru stands for the Society for the Investigation and Research of the Unknown. It's my group. and there is a website. It's basically more of a clearinghouse for contact with my stuff. But we also have a show, and what we do is it is an exploration of cryptozoology, the paranormal, forbidden archaeology, and yeah, even current events in many ways, from a Christian perspective, right? One of the booklets I've written was how UFOs and Bigfoot prove the Bible is true. I would argue that all of these phenomena, whether it is UFOs or abductions and forbidden archaeology and cryptozoology, they all are in many ways evidence that the worldview presented in Scripture is an accurate worldview.
Mm-hmm.
That these are not just random happenings; they are evidence that the world described within the Scripture is correct. And of course, my ultimate conclusion would be, if the world it's describing, if the worldview, the biblical world model, as I call it, or biblical model worldview, if that is correct, then that means the truth claims are correct.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And now again, I'm happy to have, there's nuance to this conversation. People are like, so you mean is the world 6,000 years old? Well, there's some questions between the Masoretic text versus the Septuagint. So it could be 6, it could be 7, could be 15. I'm open to those nuances of debate, right? Is the genealogy literal or is it metaphorical? Fine. I think there's a broad conversation that can be had. I'm willing to have it. However, I would argue whether you think it's 6 or 7 or 15 or 20,000. The simple fact of the matter is, the distance between that and the 4.5 billion years, that's not, the difference between those doesn't even exist at that point when you're talking about billions. It's the overall narrative that I think is most important. I think it explains a lot of what we actually see in the world. The problem is there's so much that is hidden and ignored because archaeologists find the wrong thing, and they're going to be like, well, we can't talk about this because this just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Again, dinosaurs still running around to this day. We have the Mokele Mbembe in the Congo. We've got the Ropin. We have pterosaurs here in North Texas, and we have histories of them. We've got all kinds of things that shouldn't be here if the worldview that we are fed in the mainstream is correct.
Sure.
So that's what we talk about on Siri. That's what we explore. That's what we're doing. It is to say there is a worldview in which all of this phenomena makes sense, and there is an explanation for it. And the bigger important thing isn't just, there's an explanation. It's the reason we have the explanation means that there's a greater universe in which you live, and that you are important. You were created by God, and we are here to help you find that relationship with Him because He wants to have a relationship with you.
Absolutely. We got a comment from the audience, actually, and I'll put this up, and I want to know what you think about this.
Sure.
I would think you could be a board member of Serial Papers for the nominal fee of 10,000 USD pesos.
You know what? Yeah, for a nominal fee of 10,000 pesos, yeah, you can be a board member.
Okay, there's your answer, Overbuilt. Hope that helped.
Now, the question is, what does being a board member mean? It means I will send you a board with Siri written on it. And congratulations.
But make sure you put the word member on there as well.
Yeah, board member. Yes.
So those of you that are Van Buren's Variety subscribers, if you haven't already, go to Texas Front Porch, TEX.'S. Subscribe to their channel because they've got a lot. It's not just one show. They've got multiple channels. So I would encourage you to check their channel out. And those of you on Texas Front Porch that are watching Van Buren Variety right now, hop over to my channel. I would really, really appreciate a little more subscribing. So hint, 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 hint.
Hint, nudge, nudge, giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, on Texas Front Porch, we've got a show basically every day.
Every day.
And we're adding Saturday. We've got Ryan Edwards. He's going to be doing a show.
I've had him on my show too.
Yeah, he's going to be simulcasting on the channel on Saturdays. So, yeah, there's a whole kinds of fun coming.
Okay. Well, let's kind of jump into something. I'd kind of like to talk about what we were talking about before the show, if that'd be okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
We're going to kind of shift gears here. And ladies and gentlemen, I mean, depending on what your belief is, there is a book of Revelation out there. I mean, they've got all kinds of Bible. This is my NIV Bible that I study. But Revelation, and I still struggle with that. It's so it's so symbolic. sometimes it's hard to think about what are they talking about here. Is
Right.
this a literal transaction? Is this, this is John in the first century, in his first century mind, trying to explain 21st century mechanisms.
Yeah.
So a big part of me, and I said that I'll ask this question again to you, is we hear about things like the second coming, we
Right.
hear about the rapture, and the thing that concerns me a lot. A lot of people have heard about the mark of the beast,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to get your opinion of that. Especially, I mean, yeah, give them in chronological order, but we'd like to get more about mark of the beast and in your opinion, what you're seeing now as to what's in the Bible. How do you think that would start, and how close do you think we are to that, in your opinion?
I
It's a
love that
lot.
you're giving me the empty stuff or the easy stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, real quick, because this wasn't planned, I don't have any of the normal materials I would
Yeah,
have.
this was last minute, y'all. Sorry.
So, it, it's fine. So here's the deal. I've actually most people, well, he's a crypto guy. Cryptozoological guy. He's a paranormal guy. So the first books I wrote were actually about the subject. The 2017 alignment started in 2014. I've compiled them all. You can find them all on Amazon. I've left all those books up because I want people to know that I have never changed my position. I'm
Mhm.
actually going to be doing some new stuff on my channel about this, giving you the details so
Okay.
you can see the receipts. But so again, I actually started all this doing eschatology. And the easiest way to sort of start with all of this and to just kind of give an idea of how to kind of frame it, the book of Revelation is not linear, right? I think the
Okay.
problem is most people sit down and they think, okay, so once we get past the letters to the churches, it's like John is sitting in front of a television, he's watching these things happen, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that's not what's happening, right? This is where things get really complicated, and we need to put things into the proper perspective because we use phrases we don't even realize we're doing it, but it sets us up for failure for understanding what we're reading.
See, that's me. I get confused a lot. So reading
Well,
that
and
book.
it is a confusing book. It's okay. Like people are like, no one really understands it perfectly. I would never claim to do that. I'm just saying I
Hmm.
think there's a better way to attack it. And there's a lot of things I'll say, like the first four seals, right?
Yes.
I don't really believe that no one has given me an interpretation that I like 100%. I like aspects of some of them, but I'm not really sold on any one ideology on that. So there's a lot of things where you look at, you're like, I don't know. I don't know what this
Yeah.
would mean.
That's me.
And anyone who says that they don't have that is lying to you, straight up. But I do think there's a better way to understand how the book is written and how the stories are being told that makes a lot of things functionally much easier to understand. The first is the seals and the trumpets are not judgments because we
Okay.
call them the seal judgments and the trumpet judgments all the time, particularly in evangelical realms. And people are like, well, of course they're judgments. Bad things happen in them. Hold on. Does the text actually ever call them judgments? The answer to that is no, they don't.
No, we don't. Mm-mm.
The only thing that are called judgments are the bowls or the vials, depending on
Yeah.
the interpretation you have. The seven bowls and the seven vials, they are the bowls of his wrath, of his
Yes.
judgment. The trumpets and the seals are not. So once you kind of stop, oh, okay, well, hold on, these aren't judgments, then you have to reevaluate, well, what are they? And that changes because a lot of people think everything has to happen within the 7-year period. Well, they don't. The seals are what? I would even go so far. This part I think is where a hill I will die on. They are sealed prophecies. When they break, John is given a vision every time a seal is broken, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is because they are sealed prophecies. I would argue what is actually happening is these are the prophecies that Daniel is ordered to seal up in his book.
I see.
And this isn't just some random thought. The book of Revelation and the book of Daniel are intimately connected. I would even suggest they are the same book from two different or same events from two different perspectives. And the thing that ultimately really unites them is that at the end of of Daniel 12, at the end of the book, Daniel talks about having this vision of this man, this large man,
Mm-hmm.
who is Michael, right? We know it's Michael.
Yes.
But he's standing on he's standing. He has 1 foot of the land, 1 foot of the sea, and he sees 2 angels, or 2 men in linen. He doesn't even call them angels; he calls them 2 men in linen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this glorious angel, which is Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And he raises his hand to the sky and says, "There'll be time, and half times." Well, here's the thing: that exact same scene plays out in the book of Revelation. But interestingly, John doesn't talk about 2 different people in linen, right? He just talks about this giant angel whose foot is on the land and foot is in the sea. So why doesn't he describe the 2 people in linen? Because the 2 people John saw, one was the angel that was escorting John, the second was John himself. Daniel is in that vision is literally seeing John and this angel interacting with Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what he's actually seeing. That is the event that he sees. These books are interconnected, which allows you to say, okay, that means whatever Daniel talks about and describes, particularly from a prophetic standpoint, it's a cipher to understanding what's going on in Revelation. So again, yes, these are sealed. The seals are sealed prophecies. I would say, and again, this is the part you can give or take, but I think that these are the sealed prophecies of Daniel. I would even argue that the book that John is given to eat later, that's the scroll that Jesus is unlocking. That's what is given to John to eat later in that same scene.
I see.
So that's why when you get to Revelation 6 and it's talking about, I see all these people in heaven and the scroll is, that God rolls back the sky like a scroll. That's the end of the world. That is literally Armageddon. That's the entirety of the end of these series of events.
Mm-hmm.
So then what's the 7th seal? The 7th seal are the prophecies. As I smack my poor microphone around, it's the prophecy of the 7 trumpets. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so then what are the trumpets if they're not judgments? They are events that herald the coming of Christ. These are world events that tell us Jesus is coming. That's what a trumpet blast is, right? And there is a solid argument. I'm not going to say that it's 100%, but I think there's a solid argument to be made that at least the first 3 trumpets have actually blown. The first trumpet being World War I, the second trumpet being World War II, and the third trumpet being Chernobyl. Now, people may say, but hold on, the second trumpet talks about an asteroid falling into the ocean, right? Well, that's a literal interpretation. But we have to understand, this is imagery. Well, what does Daniel say about mountains? Because this specific language is a burning mountain.
Yes.
Right? Well, what is a mountain? In Daniel, very specifically, mountains are empires.
Oh,
in fact,
okay.
That's
it's symbolic then.
It's symbolic of empires, of kingdoms. And we see that later in the book of Revelation, the 7-headed beast. Everyone's like, oh, well, it says it's 7 hills. That must mean it's Rome. No. It even says there's 7 hills and 7 kings. Well, that doesn't make sense unless you realize that hills, kings, or hills, mountains, they are empires. They are 7 kings and their kingdoms. In the same way, this burning mountain is an empire in the middle of the ocean that's on fire. Okay? Did that ever happen? World War II.
Mm-hmm.
We fought the Japanese. The only time nuclear weapons have, at least thus far, been used in combat is on the Japanese. And everyone talks about that, but let's talk about the firebombing of Tokyo. More people died there than died in both bombs. Then you have the fact that it talks about how a third of all the ships are destroyed. 1/3 of all ships that participated in World War II, merchant and military, were destroyed. It talks about 1/3 of the fish died.
Mm-hmm.
This is not my number. This is Greenpeace's number. Over 30% of all sea life has died since World War II because of everything that's occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Again, am I saying that it is the fulfillment of these prophecies? No. I think there's a solid argument for them to be that case.
I see.
But the broader point is the trumpets are events that tell us Jesus is coming. The 7th trumpet, of course, being the final. And then we get into the bowl judgments, which are those are actual judgments. Yeah. And I would argue that they happen in a very, very short period of time. Because no life is going to survive all water on Earth turning to blood.
No.
Not for very long.
It's over. Yeah.
And so the best way to understand Revelation is you have three major sets of events, right? You have the seals, which are prophecies. And again, the trumpets are prophetic events, but they are events to tell us where we are. And then you have the bowls, those are the actual judgments. Then you have little interludes in between that give you more information on where we are, what's happening, who's who, that kind of thing. So once you kind of understand you're not reading a linear story, a lot of things make sense. That's why there seem to be so many overlaps.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because they are overlapping. Each one gives you more information about a specific aspect of what's really happening.
I see. That makes completely sense. Yeah. I mean, because it's just so a prophetic book. And again, like I said earlier, here I go.
Yeah.
It was someone said a long time ago. I was a preacher, but people have questioned, why is Revelation such a hard book to understand? And the way that it was relayed was someone said, well, you got to remember John on the Isle of Patmos was writing this. He's a first century man.
Yep.
Okay. He's seeing all these things most likely in the 21st century. Mm-hmm. He's never heard the concept of a helicopter, tank, internet,
exactly.
Microchip. Mm-hmm. So in his first century knowledge, he has to describe these things as best he can. And then it was brought out, like, let's just say the world goes on for the 2,000 years. Now, and we're suddenly brought in the future. You know the technology is going to be out of this world. Now, when we come back, we have to describe what we saw in our limited 21st century knowledge of something that's not going to exist till 2,000 years from now. We don't have a name for it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's here's the thing: if you're unfamiliar with something, you may not even be able to process what you're seeing half the time. Mm-hmm. Like, this is one of those weird things where the psychiatrists have noted, if someone's at like an open air market and they see fruit that they're unfamiliar with, some people have trouble determining where one stall ends and the other stall begins, because the fruit, they can't necessarily always tell which fruit's which, because they're unfamiliar with it. Mm-hmm. So it's right there. And I think the other thing is, part of it is we take some things a little too literally. We don't understand the meaning behind. Again, a great example of this is Revelation 12, where John looks up. He sees a woman clothed in the sun with the moon on her feet. She's pregnant. She gives
purple satin. No, that's somebody else. Okay.
Yeah, it's somebody else. But she gives birth to the man child. He's the dragon's there to eat.
Dragon's there, mm-hmm.
Right? And then he gets taken. Well, it's clearly the story of Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, a lot of people are like, well, "What's going on here?" This is what the book is about. It's an astronomical alignment. Actually, it's a series of astronomical events that happened their zenith was in 2017. They don't end until 2027. So again, that's what the book is about. That's the focus of it. So the simple fact of the matter is, it's really only been within the last 30, 40 years that someone could even know that was what was going on in Revelation 12, because of computers. Be able to put because you have to be able to know that to really understand it, you have to know that when the star that the Magi followed, right, or that they saw, that said, "Oh, Jesus was born," you have to understand what that was, and that was an astronomical alignment, a series of astronomical alignments that they saw, they understood, and they had the writings of Daniel again, and they said, "Okay, we need to go to Israel because the Messiah has been born." Mm-hmm. That's the whole story into itself. But it's like you had to be able to make that connection to be able to make this connection. And here's the thing: you need computers to even see it, and there's a reason for that. It's again, there's a prophetic reason why you have because the event has to happen during the day in Israel, and that's also got prophetic imagery. But again, that's what the book is about. So again, so many things. The problem is we've been cut off from that culture. So there's things we don't have in our head. Again, like the mountains being empires. Yeah. We don't usually have that in our head. They understood it. They knew what he was talking about. Jesus, when he says, the faith of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, jump and jump, and move and it moves. He wasn't talking about a literal mountain. He was talking about the entire Roman Empire. Mm-hmm. But we lose that. We lose what's being said here because we don't have those things in our head. So back to your point about the question about the Book of Revelation, and specifically the mark of the beast.
Yeah, that's the mark. That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned. I know a lot of people is concerned about it, and we don't know. I guess for sure how that will start. We've got several theory things that are
Right.
going on. So, but for me personally, when I hear that term, either mark of the beast or just the mark,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm a Christian, but I still that just thinking about that scares me. So can you kind of go into that if you delve into that if you could?
So here's the thing: we always talk about the mark. There's three. There they are. Right there is that there's three completely different ideas. There's the mark, the number, and the name. So we have three completely different categories for what's going on with this mark of the beast. And to your
Mm-hmm.
point, one of the arguments for what because most people say, okay, it's gematria, and there's a really good reason to think that it is just gematria as far as the name, right? That's the whole point, is that the number is the the 616
Six
6
six six. Mm-hmm.
is a numerical value of his name, of the Antichrist name, and that's very true. However, we also tend to forget that those were written not in Arabic numerals, but they were written in Greek, and so they were letters. Well, there are some who are Arabic scholars who said, "Hold on." You look at the Textus Vaticanus, which was again written in the original Greek.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually written out as, again, how a Greek would write out 616 6, right? It's written in Greek. It's in letters, and the thing is, if you look at it, it looks very, 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 very similar to the Bismillah,
Mm-hmm.
which you see on the flag. The like when you see what do they call it? ISIS, the ISIS battle
Oh,
flag.
ISIS flag.
That is the traditional flag of Islam. That Bismillah. It's basically that symbol. A lot of people have suggested, yes, there may be a gematria aspect to the name, but that this is actually essentially the Bismillah. And in particular, we know the Antichrist comes out of Turkey. Like it's all over the Old Testament. Turkey's where we need to be looking. There are a lot of types and shadows of what we are seeing already here. A lot of people say, well, it's got to be yeah, I think it's going to be a microchip, at least one version of it. Remember, there's three. There's the mark, the number, and the name. Those are three completely different categories.
Okay.
I personally think that there will be a chip. In fact, I think it won't just be just a chip. I think it will be a chip that actually manipulates your DNA. That's the main thing, because I think we all think, well, maybe we'll take it. People will take it accidentally. I don't think you accidentally take this thing. This is not something that gets taken accidentally. You make a willful choice to join this. This is, you have to take this, and you will join this empire, right?
Right.
But what we are seeing right now are the precursors to it. We're seeing
Yes.
the foundation for which these things will be implemented being created, so
The
that
World Summit.
the World Summit, right? Vaccine passports. All of these things are they're stones in the road to get to this thing. That, again, I think it will be something that genetically manipulates people. It won't just be about, because everyone focuses on the economic aspect of this, and I think that's one of the things you're supposed to be. Oh, that's what I'm looking for, but it's way more than that. This is, you are selling yourself to this empire, and I think it's going to be way more blatant than we realize.
And it'll be, you think, like it says, either in your wrist or in your head or in your forehead.
Yep.
I mean, it may not be visible, but I think it'll be just implanted.
I think it will be. I think it'll be very visible. I think that's the entire point. It is.
Where you just, how with how the,
Mhm.
I don't know if it's the same thing, but how we have self checkouts now. Every store you go to is self checkouts. So literally, would you like to take your wrist and like scan like that? Is that how you
Yeah.
envision it?
There's an argument that it will be an RFID. I think it'll actually be entirely visible. I don't think it'll be hidden at all.
No.
Like, again, like I said, there's three different kinds. Like, again, the fact that we're given three different categories, there may be an all of the above category here, right? The main thing is this shows your unity with this empire, that you are
The
one
world.
of them, of this world empire, that you are one of them. And that's the main thing. But I do think a big aspect of this is going to be changing your DNA. I think, again, yeah, could it be like you just put your hand over something, you put your forehead against something,
Yeah.
and
Scan.
it registers?
Mhm.
Yeah, like when you pay with you have the chips and the cards. I think it's definitely probably a part of it. But the main point here is it's not going to be just some random things like, oh, this is just so you can buy things. It's going to be, this is how you know that you are part of this empire. This is your citizenship in this world empire, in this world system. It's not just an economic thing. This is, you are saying, I'm with these people. And here's the thing. I don't think as crazy as things have gotten, I used to think it would be very, very subtle. The only major change I've had over the last 5 years has been, I think it's going to be way more blatant. I think
Really?
yeah, oh yeah, I think the whole UFO thing very much ties into this. I think that the ancient astronaut theory is going to be the thing that they use to sell this whole thing, right? This one world religion. That's going to be how they rebuild everything, what they're going to be focused on. Because we have to remember, there's an event in which 1/3 of humanity is wiped out. I think people are going to be clamoring for things, and I think we will be set up for there to be this. And again, I thought it was just going to be, oh, we're aliens, and I think that will be part of it. But I think they're going to be very, very blatant. They're going to say, yeah, no, we are the serpent in the garden. That's us. I think they're going to come out and tell you who they are. They're interdimensional. And here's the thing, and the reason I would have never said that until a few years ago. I was watching, again, Ancient Aliens, and they literally said that the serpent from the Garden of Eden is actually a race memory of the reptilians reshaping our DNA, and they're actually the good guys.
Oh, really?
I never thought they'd be that blatant, but it looks like that they're going to be precisely that blatant, and that's what we're being set up for. Every major, with the exception of like Fast and the Furious and the Jurassic Park movies, and I've never seen the Harry Potter things, but so we can throw them in there. With the exception of like those 3 or 4 movies or movie franchises, virtually every massive multi-billion-dollar franchise that exists right now has ancient astronaut motifs. Even that stupid Ice Age, those Ice Age cartoons. It's there in the first one, and I think the 4th one, but it's right there in the first one. It's right there, the entire motif. The Marvel movies all have them. DC's not touched on it. They did in the original Superman.
Hey, Jason, I hate to interrupt. Your microphone you're kind of breaking up there.
Hold on, yeah, it's been weird.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, the simple fact of the matter is, all of these multi-billion-dollar,
better.
Yeah, all these multi-billion-dollar franchises now have some version of ancient astronaut theory embedded in them, in some way. And it's again, when they initially made Thor as a movie, right, in the comics, he is an actual god who uses actual magic. When they brought Thor to the Marvel universe, they made him an alien with advanced technology. Now, by the way, that it's all become everyone's used to it. They've done a heel turn. Now he's a god who uses magic. You notice that?
Yep, that's true.
That's what that's the lie. They're going to bring it in as because you notice the last few seasons of Ancient Aliens, they've dropped the pretense that these are aliens from another planet using spacecraft to travel here. They're all interdimensional. It's all Eastern philosophy stuff. It's all occult mysticism. They've dropped essentially all of that. And look at how often they try to connect things to the Book of Enoch, Genesis. They need there's this. They want the idea that all of the Earth's religions are predicated on contact with beings, and that our ancestors just didn't understand it. That's the lie that's being sold. So the long way around here is when Mark of the Beast shows up, it's not going to be an accident that you take.
It's doing it again. Sorry.
It's not going to be an accident.
In other words, when the Mark of the Beast comes out, it won't be something that will be mysterious. You will know what you're doing.
Yes,
you'll know what that is. That you're basically turning your back on God and Jesus at that point. It won't be just something that I did this spur of the moment. I didn't know what I was doing. No, you will know. Correct.
Yes, you'll know exactly what you're talking about. You'll know what you're doing. That's the entire point. They're not going to be subtle about it. Now, they won't say, hey, the God of the Bible is real and we're the devil. Like, that's not how it's going to be. But you'll know they'll repaint it, of course. But that is what we're seeing. That's the rise of what we're seeing.
So then the question goes. A lot of Christians have asked this. So let's get your your take on that too. There's been a lot of misinformation. A lot of people have opinions about the second coming and the rapture of the mark. Will Christians still be on this earth when Mark of the Beast comes to be?
Yes. There's
Okay.
no, yeah, the idea of the pre-tribulational rapture is a very new idea.
Okay.
And the thing is, though, it's there's no textual reason to argue that the Christians go before this final 7 years.
Okay.
Right? That's the premise. The rapture is a real event, of course, but it happens before the vials that occur at the end. This is a part of the seventh trumpet, right? It's there just is no textual reason.
I
In
see.
fact, a lot of people will say, "Oh, but what about Thessalonians? Have it right here." You
Okay,
know,
please.
right?
Yeah, I
They're
got
like,
mine here for reference too.
all right. So First Thessalonians 4, and you go to 15, right?
Uh huh.
This is the section
I'm
where
here
everyone's like,
too.
"Oh,
Uh-huh.
yeah, go for it." Where everyone's like, this is the rapture verse. This is where we get the harpazo, which gets translated into Latin into as rapture, which is where we get the word rapture from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing. And again, like I said, if we had known, I could have set this all up so you can see it. The problem is, if you read it in Greek, if you read this section in Greek, you realize there are certain terms and words that are used that are taken straight out of Matthew 25 when Jesus is talking about his return, right?
Uh huh.
And so the simple fact of the matter is, all Paul is doing is he's not quoting, but he's referencing Matthew 25 when Jesus talks about his own return. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you bring this up to people who are traditionally, pre-trib raptures, they'll say, "Oh, there's no connection." Okay, well, why? Like, what's your argument? There is none. Their argument is there's no connection. That's not a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Again, when Paul's using the same word in Greek for the gathering together, he is clear. And again, even in the context of Thessalonians itself, Paul is clearly talking about something they already know. He's not giving them something new. What's new is his explanation of the living being taken up at this, at the same time. That's the change. That's the only difference. That's the thing that he's giving them more insight on. So this is a concept that already exists that they already know. He's not telling them something new. He is referencing Matthew 25. Once you realize there's no textual reason to separate the rapture, return of Christ, you're like, oh, okay. A lot of things make more sense. Now, again, does it mean that they can't happen at the same time? Sure they can. Sure they can.
Okay.
They can happen at the same time. The thing is, think of it like a weekend music festival, right? We would all say, I saw Group A and Group B and Group C at this festival. They didn't all play at the same time, but they're part of the same event.
Mm-hmm.
The seventh trumpet, which says it's time, for the resurrection of the dead and to reward the saints and the prophets. That's the rapture. We go up. There's a week in between when the judgments are poured on the earth, and then what happens? Christ returns with the army. It's the same event. It's just not on the same day. There's a breakup there. So again, the issue I have is just show me the text that says this rapture has to occur before this 7-year period.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason from the textual perspective to say that.
Right. And but just the market, overall, where it says in Revelation that anyone without the mark, which I'm not going to take it, obviously, cannot buy, cannot sell. I mean, you are on the outside. So, I mean, I don't know if that really grabs people. That if you don't take the mark, you can't go to work, you can't buy anything, you can't buy food for yourself or your family, you can't pay your taxes or your rent on your house. I mean, that the concept of that is horrifying.
Yeah. Well, and that's the idea. It's to control someone, economically. That's what we're seeing right now, right? We're seeing this play out. We know how this is going to play out because these are the precursors for it. This is what's being set up. That's the entire point of the whole of the these vaccine passports. It's you have to have that. We've already seen this play out. We're seeing it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's and again look what happened in Canada last year with the truckers.
Oh, the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the trucker revolution. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they shut that down.
We've got a comment from the audience. I got my Bible. I have to look this up, but as Magnetica says, Revelations 13:18 is connected to 1 Kings 10 and 2 Chronicles 9. I'm not familiar with those verses, so.
Yeah, and again, this is if we had more time, and again, if we had known, I could have prepared more on that. Yeah, and it's again, there's a lot of Old Testament references in the Book of Revelation, right? This is one of those things you kind of have to put it up there, but it's about the amount of money, essentially, that Solomon's getting. Because remember, Kings and Chronicles are essentially the same events, just different perspectives,
different stuff.
Right. So there is a connection. Again, there's a lot of multi-layered connections. The main thing about the book about the Mark of the Beast is that it's three things. It's not the one thing. There's three different layers to it, and the problem is everyone wants it to be one thing. Again, so much of the Bible is that there's multi-layers here, and everyone wants to look at it only from one perspective, and you have to have all of the views.
Okay. Another thing that people kind of more of a denominational, I don't want to say argument, but just denominational differences. I'll put it that way. I've heard they say in the Book of Revelation it talks about Jesus' 1,000-year reign. Is that literally? Is that really going to happen? And what can you describe with that? And when does it occur, if it does?
Well, I would suggest that it does because that's what's literally said in the text, and it happens after the defeat of the Antichrist. That is a 1,000-year reign of the Messiah, at which, at the end, we have sort of like the final battle, right? That's when everything's sort of done. So I would suggest it is literal. We see a lot of allusions to it in the Old Testament, and that's what the text says. I don't see any reason to think it's anything other than a literal 1,000 years.
I see. There's been some back and forth on that, and there's a lot of denominational differences. But I think, and I just myself, and I need to study. I mean, I've read Revelation, but, again, it's so prophetic. And I think what I've done, Jason, in my opinion, I think I've done what you just said in the beginning, is that, I'm reading it, I don't want to say literal, but, just overall, where I'm just kind of reading it, and I'm trying to, use my own interpreting. Well, maybe it means this, maybe it means that, or maybe I'm just looking, quote, for a sign, like, oh, this has got to be it. That's got to mean that. Then later on, that event passes, and like, okay, well, that wasn't it. Now, what is this? What could this mean? So, I highly recommend. I've got a few books. I don't have them with me, but it kind of breaks down Revelation, where it's not such a mysterious book. And you know what? I think it's a shame. And I don't want to fault any church at all, but I've heard that a lot of churches, unfortunately, will stray away from Revelation. They don't want to talk about Revelation.
Yeah.
When it's a valid book in the Bible. And I'm like, that's the book that people mostly have questions about. So have you heard that, where most churches, unfortunately, don't want to talk about it? They're afraid they might get some controversy.
Oh, I've seen it. I mean, this is not, I mean, there's a lot of churches, a lot of people will avoid it. The same reason they avoid Genesis 6, right? They avoid things that make them uncomfortable. And really, one of the main reasons people don't want to believe, or they look at the text that says there's 1,000, it says it in the text that he will reign for 1,000 years in the book of Revelation. Why do they avoid it? Because these are people who do not believe in the supernatural, right? We see those, this is the entire point of Siru. We see a lot of people who they claim to believe the Bible, a supernatural book, but when it comes to angels and demons and spirits, they want nothing to do with them. They don't exist as far as they're concerned. So a lot of people who are like, well, they'll approach it all as if it's entirely metaphorical. Well, it's because they don't want to take it seriously. They don't want to take it literally. They don't want. Again, there's poetic language in the Bible. Yes, it's written poetically. There's stuff that's history. There's stuff that's prophecy. There's stuff that's poetry, and they're written from a from an ancient perspective, which uses poetic license and terms all there. But it doesn't mean these things didn't occur. It doesn't mean they didn't see what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of there's this big drive in the West to get rid of all the supernatural elements of it. That Jesus didn't actually do miracles. That these things are demons are just the bad thoughts in your head.
Oh no!
And so a lot of it is born out of this desire to not to spiritualize everything instead of saying no. There is a supernatural reality that we exist within. These are real things that we inhabit, and we have to deal with them.
Got a good suggestion in our live chat from Be Kind. I like what this person said. Those books that always say whatever for dummies. There's one called Revelations for Dummies. It's actually pretty good for studying Revelations. I have not. I'm sure that book exists. I have not seen that book personally. So, there's as many. Particularly when it comes to Revelation, there's as many as there are people out there writing, because it is a book that has there's a lot of metaphor, there is a lot of imagery that, and again, as I started the whole thing off, no one fully understands it. I mean, anyone who says that they do is lying to you, right? Oh. It is meant to be taken apart. It is meant to be, a lot of these things are meant to be hard. Everyone's like, well, why isn't it easy? The important stuff is easy, but you are supposed to engage in the text. You are supposed to wrestle with the text. That is our job as believers, is not to just be like, okay, I'm supposed to be spoon fed. No, you're supposed to dig. You're supposed to see connections. We can go and see the original languages. Right? We've got programs. You can hop in. You don't even have to be necessarily an expert to look at these and say, okay, what are these connections? We have access to all kinds of scholars who have gone through and re-examined this stuff. We are supposed to wrestle with it. It's not supposed to be easy. Absolutely. Well, Jason, we've had a very spiritual conversation. I wasn't sure where the conversation was going to go with, the guests not showing up, and then just you coming on as my co-host at the last minute, and guest, and what would you say?
Eye candy.
The sexy eye candy. Of course, we can't forget that.
Never forget that.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate Jason coming on board. And just a reminder, Jason is with Texas Front Porch, TEX dash, I think it's apostrophe. My English teacher would kill me.
It is the possessive text.
Maybe that's what I should say.
The Front Porch, yes.
Yes, so if those of you that are on my Variety channel that have not subscribed, go to their channel, and I guarantee you will find all the shows that you like. It's never a dull moment. There's so many interesting topics they talk about. And those of you on Texas Front Porch that are watching me, Van Buren Variety, make sure you come over to Van Buren and send me a little subscribing as well. So we try to support one another, and I appreciate, Jason, you and Tex allowing me to simulcast on y'all's channel, because that really gives me a lot more exposure, more commercial looks. So
I expect a check.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that 10,000 pesos that we talked about. I want to be a board member. Well, Jason, again, thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. That was a real no pun intended, spiritual talk, because I personally, I'm still, maybe we can talk off camera sometime, because Revelation really confuses me. I might as well just confess. I'm still.
Well, first of all, it's confusing for everyone, but like I said, I'll actually be doing a series in the upcoming weeks and months over on that to have visuals, right? I'm a very visual person. A lot of people, some things you kind of have to see to sort of get it straight in your head, what's actually happening, how is it broken up, how to read it. So there's going to be a lot more coming.
That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely be watching that for that, and hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you will too. So, Jason, again, thank you for coming on board. Thank you for filling in, and I really appreciate the talk that we had tonight about Revelation.
I appreciate it, man. It's my pleasure.
Take care.
Bye.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. Had a great talk tonight. I mean, not only did you learn something, I learned something myself. And so probably good advice from me. I probably need to study this a little bit more, especially the Revelation part. So I will read that definitely. That'll be my my takeaway tonight. Hopefully it is yours. And don't be scared. I mean, depending on what your belief is, if you're Christian, there's some bad times coming, but we know that He's in control, no matter what your faith is. So this is all for me tonight. This is Bob Van Buren. I'll be back next week with an interesting guest. Again, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. And if you like what you saw tonight, make sure you hit that like button too. That really, really helps us out. Makes us feel good too. So hopefully the next time you see me on this show, I won't be having to live on this. As you can see, I didn't lose my voice tonight, so this bronchitis might be cutting me a break. So hopefully that will be a thing of the past. So that's all for me tonight. This is Bob Van Buren for the Van Buren Variety Show. Good night, everybody.